Morning, guys. I've already posted the reading materials on the class stream. Also, if you want to avoid showing all the messages that I've posted, you could go straight to the classwork tab and track the reading and assignment materials from there. So you should have the reading material available to you. Today is day 10 for us. It's a Tuesday session, so that means I'll be posting this video and also the reading material as a Word file. You should be able to open these files and read them. Alright, it has pictures and images that I use and try to use to help explain a lot of these concepts. And for the video itself, well, it's just a way to practically show you the information that I've posted in the reading material. Once again, the video is optional to watch, but the reading material, I advise you to definitely read it to be able to do your assignments on Thursdays. So let's jump right into it. For today's session, we'll be covering a review based on the manual operations that I was covering right before the Easter vacations. Quick review before that. Remember that this bar right here that my mouse is hovering on is called the formula bar. That shows you the actual information that you have typed into each cell. Remember, each of these boxes here are cells, and we identify them using the letter and the number. So the one that's highlighted right now is cell A1. The one that I highlighted now is cell C3. And the one that I'm highlighting now is cell E1. You always start with the letter first and then use the number behind the letter to identify each cell. So if you're saying I'm going to put something in this cell that I've highlighted, I'm saying in cell B4 I'm going to enter information. And the notes basically talk about this in more detail, but you can use cell addresses or cell references to use their values or to hold values, and you can use their values in a different cell. For example, if I had the number 25 in cell A1, in cell B, I can use this value to perform a calculation simply by referencing or typing in A1, and Excel will know that I'm referencing a cell. However, with Excel, you can't just start typing A1 and then it knows that you're talking about the cell A1. If you just type in A1, if you look at the formula bar, it just says A1. If you want to make a cell reference and use it in a calculation, remember we talked about the symbol. That's very important to start a formula or to start a calculation, and that's the equal sign. Writing the equal sign tells Excel that you are ready to perform a calculation. It's a formula, and a formula is defined in the reading materials as a rule or a mathematical rule that uses symbols, in other words, the plus signs, minus signs, different operators to calculate something. So if I wanted now to perform a completely manual, and manual means to do things like physically is one way to describe it, or to do things from scratch, then you could say, well, 25 plus 10. If I wanted to add these numbers here and I press enter, I get 35. But if you look at the formula bar, it shows me the true values or the true information that I've typed in. In this cell, it shows you the value that we get after calculation. And if I go ahead and do this on cell C1 without putting the equal sign, then that's all I get. The equal sign, if you look at cell C, here C1, no equal sign, then Excel thinks that you want it to look like 25 plus 10. However, when you put the equal sign, for example, in the form right here in the formula, then Excel knows that you want this to be calculated and not just displayed. Therefore, that's why in cell B1 you get a result or a resolved formula, and in C1 you just get what you typed in. Therefore, the equal sign is very important, guys, to start your formulas both manually, meaning when you're writing formulas from scratch with physical numbers, or when you're using pre-designed formulas that are included with Excel, such as those sum formulas like this one here, average, count, max, min, and so forth. So that's just a brief tutorial on writing out your formulas manually, but also from scratch using numbers physically, actual numbers like 25 and 10. But I said you can refer to numbers in cells, and in this case 25 is the same number that I can use from cell A1. So rather than rewriting 25 and maybe using up more space, you can just simply refer to A1, and now notice A1's color has turned blue, and that blue color signifies that you have entered a cell reference, and it will use whatever is in cell A1 and try to add it to the number 10. It takes the value of cell A1 and then adds it to the number 10. So you can mix numbers and cell addresses, or you can make it completely out of cell addresses. For example, I can put A2, and notice it just says 25 for now because there's no value in A2, but if I put A10 in A2, then it starts to add both those values. So again, this is still a manual formula because we had to write it ourselves with equals, and we had to also write it with our sign that we wanted to use. What makes a formula not manual, the way how I've been describing it so far, is if we use one of the pre-designed or those included functions that Excel has provided with this tab here. But we're going to cover that on a different time, alright, maybe next week. Alright, so that's basically a quick review on what we were doing before Easter. I wanted to do this again just to make sure you guys get the point. I want to make sure you guys understand now that the cell reference will be used in formulas, and you use the values in those addresses, in those cells. Alright, it's not going to give you the formula, but it's going to give you the value in the cells. And just to compound what we've learned just now, if you look at the formula bar, B1 is actually equals A1 plus A2, which is 25 and 10. In C, I can do an addition using A1, B1. Even though B1's true contents is this formula here, it still holds the value 35. So I can put equals A1 plus B1, and it actually takes the value 35 and adds it to 25. When I press enter, you get 60. Notice C1 doesn't copy equals A1 plus A2. It just takes whatever is in B1, which is the value 35 at this point, and then it just adds it to A1 because that's what I tell it to do. And of course, I can always switch the signs up. It doesn't always have to be addition. I can switch this up to minus. So 25 minus 35 will give us a negative number because 35 is larger. And you can actually mix and match. So what if I say A1 minus B1 but plus A2? And notice it's not limited to just one or two lines. You can always jump from one line to the next using cell references. In this case, in cell C1, A1, which is 25, minus 35 gave us negative 10. But now what happens when we add it to the value that's in cell A2? Negative 10 plus 10 should cancel out and give us, and let me press enter, 0. So if you look at the value, it's 0. But if you look at the formula bar, it tells you what's truly in the cell. So it's very important to make that difference, because if you're just looking at this sheet right here, you think, oh, someone just put a 0 there. It's not important. But that's not true, depending what you're using the Excel file for. For example, if you were calculating someone's bill, and let's say they owe $25, but they overpaid last month an extra 35, which is why we minus 35. That means they would have had a credit of $10. I know it's got a little bit, hopefully you're following here. But what if this month that came, their bill was $20, and because of that, it now shows $10 in their bill. But because of that credit of $10 from the previous payment, which is in B1, then now you actually only owe $10 in that case instead of 28. That's not really a really good example so far to describe it, but I hope for those of you who understood it that you understand better what I mean. That's why the formula is important, because you know that they're referencing these cells for a reason, and not just having a 0 there just because they wanted a 0 there. Alright. So other than that, and handling different formulas and operations, in the reading material, I cover again very briefly the 4 signs of operators, the plus, minus, multiply, and divide. I use these little shapes and arrows to describe each part that we're dealing with. So just formula bar, and then each of these rectangles or cells are called cells, under the letters and beside the numbers. And then I show you how we identify cells. Moving on, I talked about the equal sign, why it's important. I talked about it in this video a few minutes ago. And then I talk about the formula bars, values, or what's contained in the formula bar, as opposed to what's in the cell itself. So again, it's very important to make that distinction between what's in the formula bar and what's in the cell itself. So it's not that this cell contains only a 0. In other words, B1 is very different from C1, right? B1's value and its true value is just 0. They didn't make any additions, they didn't make any subtractions. However, in C1, it does make subtractions and additions based on A1 and A2, right? Let me add a row there. And before I finish off, I just want to put a quick example of how your assignment is going to look like next Thursday. It's going to look basically like this image here. I use the first row to create headers, and based on those headers, we make calculations and we fill out the table by putting the answer to these calculations. So basically what you're going to do is going to provide the answer for me. These headers tell you what's the first number, what's the second number. Although in the notes I haven't provided something that says the formula, but I'll show you the formula real quick. So in the notes I use 3 numbers, and then what I wanted you to do is to provide the answer for me. I'll go ahead and delete these numbers, and I'll do one example real quick. Okay. So your assignment will look like this. Of course, there will be much more numbers, but I'll show you the first line. Numbers 10, 20, and 5 are numbers, right? If you look at the formula bar, they're not any formula or any type of calculation, they're just numbers. I'll have a header here that says formula, and what I'll do is I'll put quotation marks and then the equal sign, just so that the formula is actually shown. So if I type this in and I press enter, it doesn't calculate the formula for me. What I want you to do for your assignment, and I'll post it Thursday, is that I want you to put the answer of what this would calculate to. Tell me, what does A2 plus B2 plus C2 give you? It should give you 35, right? And then the reason why I put the quotation marks is if I remove them, then notice all the references get highlighted, and it treats it now as a real formula to be calculated in Excel. If I press enter, I get 35, and that's the answer I expected. So your assignment will look like this, and instead of having 35 here, I might have a question mark, and your responsibility is to perform this calculation and type out the answer yourself. If you're using Excel, then I want you to download the file that I uploaded. Or if you're using Sheets, you could open the file, and I think you could edit it, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I put it to be edited, but you can download it and then use it to perform your assignment. If you're using Excel, you can remove the quotes and it should help you get the answer. But I don't want the answer to be on this column here. That's why I called it formula. But you notice Excel goes ahead and resolves those formulas for you, and hence the reason why I want you to use quotation marks. All of this is provided to you in the Excel file for the assignment. When I post the assignment, you'll see the Excel file link. You'll be able to download it, or if you just go to the form, which I had already created the file itself, I just need to wait for Thursday to post it. It's already there, but you can't see it yet because I haven't publicly posted. It contains the Excel file for the assignment. The file has a lot of information that you can read and make sure you do it correctly. And the form itself, let me show you this real quick before I end. I also show the image here. I'm sure you could work off just this image alone, but if that's too small, the link for the original file is also found here. You could click that to view the larger image. As usual, type in your name, your last name, and your class. Notice question starts from number 2. In the Excel file, I have a column that has the numbers to distinguish each question's number, so number 1, 2, 3 to 10. I give you the answer for number 1. Alright, that's why we're starting on number 2 here. So make sure you go ahead and complete each of these formulas and provide the answer for me using the numbers in the cell references provided. So if you notice, let me zoom in. So we're talking B4, which is this one, right? B4, C4, which is this column, C4, and then so forth and so forth. These ones goes basically in sequence, B6, 7, 8, all the way to 13. So each line should have a different answer, definitely. And pay close attention to the signs that I'm using between each number. So it's not all going to be plus, plus, plus. For example, number 2 has B5 minus C5, then you add B5. So the answer is going to be different. It's not the same symbols for each one. Alright? So that's the assignment. Make sure you answer from number 2 all the way to number 10. Number 2 is here all the way to number 10. The question marks are your answers that you need to put in. You put in those answers right here. So if number 2 was, let's say, 104, I'm not saying that's the answer. That's just a random number I chose. then you put in 104. If number 3 is 25, you put in 25, and when you're done, as usual, submit this assignment. So now you guys don't have to work from Excel and upload files. I'm going to be doing forms instead, where you answer the forms with the correct answers. Alright guys, that's it for today. I went over to 20 minutes, but that's because I needed to explain to you guys how the form structure looks. So going forward, I think the lesson should be under 20 minutes depending on the topic and how complex it is. Alright, if there's no questions, then go ahead, read the reading material, please. The reading material might explain things in more details, especially if you don't understand. So please go ahead and read day 10's materials. Alright, I'll post this assignment on Thursday. Remember what I said. Tuesdays are reading material and videos, and then Thursday is the actual assignment. So you have today and tomorrow to read these information that I've written for you guys and try to understand it, and then Thursday you can actually do the assignment. Of course, you can have your reading material open while you're doing the assignment. That's what it's there for. But if you can read it today and understand everything perfectly, then on Thursday, once I post the assignment, it should be very easy for you to just go ahead and complete the assignment. Alright, so go ahead, do the assignment with your reading materials. If you're good, you understand everything, just do the assignment, and it should really take you like 10 minutes max to finish the assignment. Alright, so with that said, I'll end the class here today. We meet again on Thursday. I'll post the assignment, but remember guys, if you have any questions, comment on the video or reading material posts, or on the assignment post on Thursday when I do post it. But if you don't have any questions now, I'm gonna end the stream now. See you guys Thursday. And if you still have any questions, again, like I said, just post a comment on one of the videos. I'll make an effort to go and read the comments that you guys post. Alright guys, have a good day. See you Thursday. Remember, I'm gonna be online every day still in the mornings, so go ahead and make a comment in the morning. So it's not just Tuesdays and Thursdays. I might be online between Monday to Friday, alright, not just Tuesdays and Thursdays. So again, see you guys.